The Delaware and Hudson Railway was once a thriving transportation hub in the Northeast, primarily running north and south, transporting important fueling and industrial resources from just over the New York border into Canada all the way down into Pennsylvania. And while I'm not an enormous history buff, especially towards old trains and rails, I am always on the lookout for adventure, and I'm endlessly curious about long forgotten and abandoned places. They always have me thinking about my own death, that everything I know and love and use in my life will also, someday, become obsolete and perhaps forgotten. Here I find myself in beautiful upstate New York, my hometown of Oneonta, a town full of amazing nouns. But we're here to explore a bit of the now defunct but historic railway. Oneonta became a booming town in the mid-19th century when the Delaware and Hudson Railroad made Oneonta a major stop along its path. Tiny town Oneonta actually had the largest locomotive roundhouse in the world. Here you can see the remnants of the foundation of that building. For folks like myself who don't know, the roundhouse is used to service and store train cars, where you fix them up, you turn them around, you fill them up, you give them a pep talk. They're impressive in size. The one in Oneonta had 52 stalls, which is 50 more stalls than the men's bathroom of the Super Walmart that currently sits in Oneonta. My dad actually spent some years punching his time card down here. In fact, the rail yard was at one time the largest employer in the town. The boom of the railway in Oneonta started in the mid-19th century, and over the course of the next 100 years, Oneonta saw much growth from a small town of about 1,000 folks in 1860 into a small city of about 14,000 in 1980. But in time, as things do, Oneonta's stop along this rail slowly became unnecessary. And although much of the train traffic had ceased by then, the rail yard officially shut down in 1996. And nowadays, industrial trains still travel through the area, but they no longer stop for any major services in Oneonta. And here's the old train depot from 1892, which was previously occupied by Stella Luna Restaurant for 47 years, which actually just recently closed in 2019. Now, much of the land has been reclaimed by nature. Most of the buildings have been demolished and removed. There are some warehouses that have been built on the property, some businesses that make use of some of the old buildings and spaces. It's one of my favorite places to visit in town. There's an old dirt road that connects the west end of Oneonta to almost the city center. The road is not used much as it's a bit rough and mostly neglected by the city, but it's quiet and peaceful. And if you're into this stuff, there's a lot to look at. Now, if we head over to Niwa Park, which is one of the bigger parks in town, it holds this historic relic of the railroad. This little red caboose sits encased on a display and is, quote, the most historical railroad car in America. The story goes on September 23, 1883, a small group of local train folks met in this tiny caboose for a night of Xbox and a rousing game of Duck Duck Goose. More importantly, they laid the foundation for the very first national union for rail workers, dubbed Brotherhood of the Railroad Trainmen. They wrote bylaws for better working conditions, higher safety standards, pay equity, and pensions. And then I imagine they went home. This union went on to become the largest transportation union in the world. And there's actually a bronze placard here that commemorates the names of those involved. This event became so important to U.S. history that the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. wanted to relocate this car down to their museum in the nation's capital. But local townsfolk, they were not having it. They fought back and they won the rights to keep the caboose here in town, so folks like me can look at it for their entire childhood and not give a crap. But now I give all the craps. It's awesome. If you ever find yourself traveling through central New York, stop on by to Oneonta and see this little red caboose that could. If you found any value in this video, do that YouTube thing and hit like and subscribe. So thanks for watching, and get out there and adventure, and I'll see you out in the wild.